Thank you for joining me. My name is Gina Marie DePrima, and this is Divorce with Heart and Conscious Co-Parenting. I'm a lawyer that practices in the area of divorce and family law, and I'm an empath and an intuitive as well. And what that means is while I've been practicing in this field now for almost 15 years, and have a lifetime of experience really outside of the practice of law, it means that I've been able to approach this in ways that I think is different from other lawyers because I am, in fact, so sensitive to the energies that surround this area of relationship and heartbreak. So the goal of this podcast is to help you navigate these very difficult relationship changes, divorce, separation, custody battles, whatever it is that you may be going through, to help you to navigate that and to find peace and resolution by leading with your heart, by becoming aware of your choices and your decisions, and by helping you to give you guidance in ways to keep you more aligned with your true heart, your true soul desires. Most of the time we get stuck in our head. We get stuck in our head and we get stuck in the pain that these difficult situations bring. And when we get stuck in our head and stuck in the pain, we lead with the ego. We engage in battles, custody battles, fights. We hire lawyers that are going to eat apart the other side. You know, why? Because we want to win, 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 win. It's very competitive by nature when we're stuck in our head and leading with the ego. In the end, I don't think real peace and happiness is possible. I think real peace and happiness is possible only through leading with the heart, for generating some respect, some compassion, and some gratitude to start. So that's really the goal of where we're at. And if you like what you hear, I'd really, really love to hear from you. Please leave a rating, feedback in iTunes, Stitcher, or Google, wherever you found this podcast. Please leave me a message on my Facebook Law page. That's DePrima Law on Facebook. And something new is that I'm creating a Facebook group now called Divorce Intelligence. And the idea of the group is to create community around this podcast and community around this idea of leading with the heart and being more generative so that we can really change the existing paradigm of divorce and separation and parenting apart. So it's my hope and goal that through this Facebook group we can support each other and spread awareness. So I'd love to hear from you there too. If you could join the group, I'll be posting in there from time to time. I'll be taking questions. I'll be answering questions. You know, we're just going to let it flow and see where it takes us. So again, I thank you so much for spending these few minutes with me, and I really hope that I can leave you with something to think about. Today we're going to talk about the different side of expectations, because I've been thinking about this lately and thinking about how sometimes it's the expectations and the apparent failure to meet expectations that keep people stuck and that keep people fighting and in this sort of conflict-driven relationship. I think that true peace really lies in the idea of dropping an expectation or meeting an expectation, and most importantly, finding forgiveness where perhaps an expectation hasn't been met. So if we just dig in a little deeper, what I want to share with you, and I'm going to talk about this sort of by way of an example. So when I'm saying husband, I'm referring to a man, and then vice versa for the wife. It's really universal. So you can flip-flop and swap the genders. It could be husband and husband, wife and wife. Don't take it too literally is what I'm expressing here. But what I find now in this example, and in the energy sometimes of what keeps people really just stuck in this conflict, is the idea, often with men, of this inner feeling and idea of failure. Failure. They've failed in their marriage, they failed at their promise, they failed at being a husband, failed at making you, their wife, or your girlfriend, or baby mama, happy. Whatever the case may be, there's a real deep and profound sense of failure. Because whatever it is, he didn't do it correctly. He didn't meet your expectations, which really is all that he was set out to do in the first place. Oftentimes men come into a relationship or meet a woman and they want to make you happy. They want to make us happy. We all want to make our partners happy on some level. And in the end, that didn't happen. So there's this deep, deep sense of failure. On the other hand, I think it's women, girlfriends, wives, the other partner, they have this expectation that their husband or their boyfriend, their lover, father of their child is going to make them happy. Happily ever after. They're going to be a good provider. They're going to be a good father. And in some ways, if you really think about this, it's a fairy tale. This is a fairy tale that we have adopted from Disney. It's a Disneyland fairy tale. It's an unconscious story that I think we, oftentimes as society, on one level or another, have made into a truth. We've taken something that was supposed to be nothing more than a fantasy, and we have subconsciously, covertly made it into a truth and a way of life. We enter into relationships with these built-up expectations and ideas of what our partner is supposed to provide, how they're supposed to meet our needs. And when it doesn't happen, we're let down, we're hurt, we're angry. And so begins the battle. So let's just take a step back here and let's suppose that this little fairy tale really is exactly what it was always meant to be. Nothing more than a fairy tale, a fantasy. It's not meant to be true. Let's pretend that we don't ever think that it's supposed to be true, that we don't see it that way, that in fact we live and we act and we have these expectations of our partner that are not what we were told our partner is to be, or in fact are completely opposite from what we always believed was necessary, required, or appropriate, or best. So let's look at it. Let's take a look honestly and truthfully and say, okay, life happens, Maybe it's true. Maybe your husband wasn't home enough. Maybe he wasn't clean enough. Maybe he didn't make enough money. Maybe he wasn't proper enough, didn't dress well enough, didn't pay enough attention to you, and so on and so forth. The list is endless. Why? Because our expectations of the perfect partner are endless. So what happens is you're not happy. You're not happy, and a part of you blames him for your unhappiness. And in turn, if you're like everybody else out there, you've probably voiced your unhappiness in countless ways. So your partner then ends up hearing all of the ways that they haven't measured up. They hear all of the ways time and time again that they're not good enough. They've let you down. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They didn't do this well enough. What's wrong with them? And what do we have? We have anger. The anger stirs, and your partner, more likely than not, is then going to act in ways that match that expectation. And then that's a very low-level expectation. You're setting it out there. That's the vibe you're putting out there, right? So he's going to act that way to match you and meet you there. And I don't mean that this is, necessarily intentional or well thought out. I think we do these things half the time unconsciously. We don't know what we're doing, we just do it, is what I'm suggesting. So what might that look like? Well, he might be stepping out with another woman. He might be drinking. He might start isolating himself and not sharing himself with you. He'll do anything really to, in some ways, validate this idea that you've already generated that he's not good enough. He's not going to measure up. And of course, you're going to be right because that's what he's going to show you, right? And again, like I said, this works both ways. At the end, we have heartbreak, heartache, anger, and frustration. While each one of you, each party goes into this shame and blame cycle. You start to blame yourself. You start to blame yourself for all of the wrong, terrible choices you made. How could you have married him? How could you have had a child with him? How could you have trusted him? How could you have listened to him? Right? How could I thought that she would love me? How could I thought that she was the one for me? How could I have been so wrong? Now you're both wrong. And just by the very nature of how life works, the more you're stuck in that low energy and that low vibe and those low expectations and focusing all of your thoughts and energies and feelings on that, the more you're going to see it. It becomes self-validating. And each of you engage in this dance where you're hurting each other and hurting yourselves. Now let's think about it. When you feel that way, when you're feeling that shame and that blame and being wrong, how does it feel? How does it feel? Because we've all been there. How does it feel? It feels awful. It feels awful. I don't know that many feelings that are worse. It feels like you're stuck. It feels dark. It feels tight, constricted, heavy, isolating. Am I right? It's very low. It's angry, and you're in your head, usually when you're here in this place. You're in your head, and you're locked in this story. And again, it's a story built on these false expectations, this fairy tale of expectations that was never meant to be real in the first place, never meant to be true in the first place. But that's what it is. And it's the story that has set you up to be wrong and has set every one of us to be wrong. Wrong in ourselves and wrong in the relationship. And nobody likes to be wrong. Nobody. If one person likes to be wrong, let me know. I've yet to meet him. Nobody likes to be wrong. I think that's a universal truth. It's just part of who we are. We want to be right. It feels good to be right. It feels good to look back on a decision with confidence and satisfaction and know that, we did a good job. We did the best we could. We took what we knew at the time and we acted. We feel confident with ourselves. We feel proud of ourselves. We feel secure. We feel good. I was going to say safe, but I don't know. But it's certainly a heck of a lot better than feeling wrong. And completely opposite. Right? It's expansive. Makes you want to act more, trust more when you're feeling right. When you're feeling wrong, what happens to your trust? What happens to your future choices and your decisions? Is there an open door or is it slammed shut? I think it shuts them. It shuts down possibility. It shuts down opportunity. It's a very, very dark feeling. So what I want to suggest is that we all start making each other right. Let's make each other right. I want you to make yourself right. I want you to make him right or her right. I want you to make yourself right, and I want you to make your former partner right by seeing the good. See the good in what they've done. See the good in who they are. Because nobody at the end of the day is all bad. Nobody at the end of the day, well, maybe a few people, but I don't think they're listening, fit the complete profile of, extreme horror negativity, unless maybe you're the devil himself. If we go back to our example of the husband, the father that was feeling like a failure, not meeting your expectations, how can you be right about yourself and be right about him? Well, one idea is allow him to be a good father. Allow him to be a good father. Allow him to meet at least one of the expectations that you had when you first went into the relationship. Just one. Go through and do some soul searching. What was your unspoken wish list when you were looking for Mr. Right or Mrs. Right? What were you looking for? What were you expecting? You can look at it from the other side. Well, how were you let down? Because the opposite of that would be your expectation. And find those things and see if you can at least pick out one that your partner has matched and has been right on. There has to be one there. And I think in parenting, it can be a good example. It can be a good way to do this. Because oftentimes, women and men, we go through this divorce, we go through the separation, we go through the custody battles. Everybody recognizes the relationship wasn't working, the love was lost, but sometimes each parent, at the end of the day, still wants to be a good parent to your children. And wouldn't it be nice to look back and say, you know what, I wasn't wrong for picking him. I wasn't wrong for marrying him. I wasn't wrong for devoting 15 years of my life to him, or whatever the case may be. Because at the end of the day, despite all the flaws, despite all the drama, despite all the grief, I picked somebody that's still willing to stand up and be a good father and be a good parent. And I can see all the ways that he does that or tries to do that. And I emphasize try, because not one of us is perfect. We all make mistakes and we all stumble, and we don't get it right 100% of the time. So we have to be gentle with each other. Most importantly, give each other an opportunity. Give each other an opportunity and keep that door open to have an expectation met. Because when that expectation is met, you can be right. The other partner, your partner, can be right. Now, I know some people might be thinking, okay, sure, it's so easy for you to say, but when we were together, he didn't do anything to show that he was a good father. This is all after the fact. He's only stepping up now that he wants the kids. While we were married, he didn't show any interest, didn't help. It was all on me. I get it. I've heard it. I've heard all of the stories, and I'm sure there's some I haven't. But I get it. And you're probably right. It's probably absolutely true that that's how it was. But do you want to live your future based on the past? Or do you want to create a new present and live your future from a new place? Do you want a future that mirrors your past? Or do you want something new and better and brighter? If you want opportunity and you want growth, then you've got to change your perspectives. You can be right. Maybe he wasn't there during the relationship. Maybe he didn't know what to do. Maybe he didn't know how to do it. Maybe he saw what a fantastic job you were doing, so he just left you to do it, knowing he could never match up. Maybe he chose to work instead and make money and tried to meet other expectations that you may have had, because at the end of the day, he was trying to make you happy. I'm sure that there's other possibilities. This isn't meant to be all-encompassing, but I want to generate ideas. So time has moved on. You are now here. You're not in the past. Do you want the door open? Do you want the door closed? Do you want the door open where maybe you can move forward with some on a higher level with better energy between the two of you? Or do you want to be stuck in that heavy, dark, isolating feeling with the shame and the blame and the anger and the frustration because you were wrong in the first place? I think if you want the door open, then the question becomes, will you let him show you that he can be a good father now? Will you let him, and of course this can be or her partner, will you let him or her out of the old story? Will you let him or her out of jail? Will you release him or her from their past sins and wrongdoings? Can you make room for redemption? Can you make room for possibility? Can you do that? You're going to have to let go of telling your old story. You'd have to let go of that story. You know, the one where you're the victor, you're the better parent, the other partner's the villain, they're the mistake, they're everything you did wrong, they're the SOB. You're going to have to let go of that. That story might have taken up a lot of space in your life, a lot of time in your life. You're going to have to let go of that. Can you step down from your pedestal and release yourself from being the victim of his failure? His failure to meet your expectations? Can you step forward instead? Can you step forward and hang up the victim cap? And instead, look at what you've done, look at what you've created, look at where you are, and know that you were right, all along. You've always been right. You were right to pick him in the first place. You were right to marry him in the first place. You were right to have a child with him. You were right to divorce him or separate him or move out. Not anything that you've done has been wrong. You were right. And when you were right, and you feel that, the rightness, that it's okay, you didn't do anything wrong, in turn, that means that he's not a villain anymore. He's not part of a mistake. He's part of something real, and he's part of the deeper truth. And the real truth is not built in fantasy. The real truth can be exactly what it is. You're two adults who once loved each other and are now separate. But out of that love and that feeling that you had toward one another, you bore a beautiful child, beautiful souls, and those children deserve the best of both of you, whatever that may mean and whatever that may bring. So can you give yourselves and one another and each other the opportunity for that? Can you give yourself an opportunity to be right? And please stop shaming yourself and blaming yourself, because that fantasy was never meant to be the truth in the first place. I really hope that this is making sense. I've tried to condense it as best that I could. I feel I may have lost some pieces here in the translation, but as I've stated before, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. And as you really think about what I've said here, it might help to just sit down like you're a detective of your heart. Sit down and look like a detective would for all of the good qualities in your former partner that you may have missed or forgotten about, or just plain old didn't see right now. Maybe they're late blooming qualities, but you're so stuck in the anger and the grief and the emotions of the past that you haven't noticed. So sit down like a detective and go through. Get quiet, get deep with yourself, and look for the real truth, not the fantasy. And then make room for your former partner to show up and meet you there. Because as you focus on the good qualities, and as you focus on being right in your choices, in the past and in the present, and you focus on the opportunity and the possibilities for successful parenting and communication and cooperation between the two of you, that is what you are going to find mirrored back to you. If you stay stuck in the mud, shaming yourself, blaming yourself, and being wrong, you're in quicksand. You'll never rise above, you'll never grow. So look at it. Find those good qualities. Look at where you were before, when you met that person. What was it you wanted? What were you looking for? And then challenge yourself. Is it something I really wanted? Was that a story? Is it something I was told I needed? Is that something that I was told was right? And if that's what it was, has he met me there? Has he met me there in any little way? Maybe he hasn't shown up 100% of the time. But maybe there were times that I can recognize that he really did try, and he tried to meet my expectation that I had. So therefore, it's okay. I'm right. I'm right because I picked somebody that cared enough to try. I'm right because I picked somebody that cares enough still to want to be a part of my child's life. It's a mindset that we're changing here, and a perspective. Challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to be right instead of being wrong. Or be wrong about all the nasty conclusions you made. Be wrong about the old story. Be wrong about how you were let down. See it in a new way with a new lens. And in this way, you will free yourself. Make yourself right. Make yourself worthy. Open the door to all of these possibilities. And as you do it, please be patient. And please be gentle. And remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. These are baby steps. But they're baby steps worth taking. And though you may wobble, you may stumble, and you may fall, with practice, you'll stand and you'll walk into a brighter future. Thank you for listening.